But this is the second part of our first video in which we were discussing 3 most influential works. And here we are discussing the other influential book, which is The Wretched of the Earth, a manifesto of decolonialism and colonialism. It's a very important book. Central theme of this book is revolution and violence. And when we are talking about violence, this violence is basically through colonialism. How colonialism is leaving its impact on the natives, the colonized natives region, the land, and how it has changed its behavior. So, and how they will react back to this particular form of colonialism, a form of domination. And so this violence is basically a two-way process. The violence which colonized people, the natives, got from the colonizer, and then the violence which they'll return back in form of resistance and revolution. Now, in this book, basically, we're talking about community and land. This book is not about individual, the way we have seen in Black Skin and White Mask, that its ontology is individualistic in nature. This book is about community, because here in this book we are going to see the relationship between the people, how they're behaving with each other, what are their reaction to each other, how they're cooperating or working with each other or not working with each other. So it's more about relationship, the relationship of people with their land as well. Now, the relationship is not only between the colonized people, it's also between the colonized and their land. It's between the colonizer and colonized as well. It's between the classes of colonized also. So this relation is multi-directional and multiple in nature. Now, these effects of colonialism on colonizer is very deep. The first impact is that it's a dehumanizing force. The way colonized people are treated by the colonizer is very dehumanizing. They're not treated like a human. They're treated the way, even it's not called that they're treated like animals. It's dehuman. Dehuman means that not to consider them what they consider themselves. The colonizers consider themselves. So it's worse. Probably it's worse than animals as well. Now, this dehumanizing force, which is reformulating the personality of the natives, of the colonized people, is actually created and sustained by violence. Created by violence means that the psychological and the physical and the emotional violence imposed by colonizers, imposed by the invaders on the natives, on the colonized people, it's creating the reactionary violence within the hearts, within the minds, and within the actions and behavior of the colonized people. At the same time, colonialism is sustained by violence. If there would not be this imposing force, then colonization will never stay the same. It's very, if this class conflict will not be created in terms of economy, if racial conflict will not be created in terms of colonized and colonizer relationship, then colonialism will not sustain. So it's a very colonialism is very much dependent on violence. And as I said, that it completely transforms the thinking pattern, the subjectivity, the feelings of a person. So it completely transforms a person psychologically, and it destroys the system, the complete system in which they were living in. As a result, a new system is generated, which is different from what it was before. Now, this violence is basically resistance. It's reaction to the colonizer and the dreaming of revolution, the dreaming of bringing in a new form of nation, which will be free from the forces of colonizer through the process of decolonialism. So this is reactionary force in short. And again, as I mentioned, that this violence is not physical, it's also psychological, it's also cultural violence, it's also economic violence. So it's a multi-directional force, or it's a multi-directional resistance which manifests itself, and it calls for the revolution, it calls for a total change. And looking at this whole picture, this book basically talks about how the world is basically divided into two. It's cut into two, which is called Manichaean world. Manichaean world is not only manifested by the colonizer, the invader, when they differentiate themselves from the others who are non-European, who are actually the natives, who are actually the colonized people. It's not only manifested there, it will be manifested even after the land get decolonized, because the impressions of colonialism is so deep, these are so penetrating, that it's quite impossible for the colonized and for the native people to get rid of these impressions. Even the society, the decolonized society, it'll get divided into two. It'll become a Manichaean world. It'll get divided into the national bourgeoisie, which will imitate the colonizer, which will become an agent of, according to Frantz Fanon, an agent of the colonized colonizer, and then the masses, which will show resistance and reaction to the colonized people. So the thinking pattern of both the classes will entirely be different. The way they live, the way they'll behave, and there will be complete alienation between two classes. The similar alienation which was existing between colonized and the colonizer will be there after decoloniality between national bourgeoisie and the masses. So though the concept of nationalism, which is a very flowery concept entailing unity and entailing oneness and one thought pattern, the singular ontology, is there, yet it's not that oneness. The process of decolonization emerges with the process of nationalism, yet that unity will not be achieved. Now here in this particular book, the exploitation which Frantz Fanon is discussing is economic, because when he's discussing association with the land and association with the deprivation, then it's all economic exploitation. And when he's talking about national bourgeoisie, that how national bourgeoisie's interest is always economic, how it is an agent of the colonizer even after decolonization, how he works only for his economic interest. So this is this complete exploitation which is discussed here, be it from the colonizer or from the national bourgeoisie, it's very much economic exploitation. And then of course psychological exploitation, because the way national bourgeoisie is behaving or the masses are behaving, that is a psychological transformation. That's a psychological conversion of their personalities and their feelings and their thought patterns, and this is why they have started thinking like that. In this book, the approach which has been used is existentialist, because again, like black skin, white mass, the essence and the meaning is derived from the context, be it the context of colonialism, where colonizer is constantly impinging the freedom and the rights of colonized, or after decolonization, it is a national bourgeoisie and masses relationship. It's existential. The meaning of colonizer now gets changed. and the meaning of colonized also gets changed. Colonizer, though, has left now, but the agent in form of national bourgeoisie is existing in the society of the natives, and those natives who were once in the age of colonialism, they were acting as one, as a unit, and they were fighting for the same cause, and they were fighting for the same concern. They are now split into two. They are now working for their own interests, and those interests are different, and their meaning and their interests are being defined by the context in which the context of decoloniality, the context of the economic interests, the context of the of the power which will be gained now by the national bourgeoisie. So this is again very much existentialist in nature. Similarly, it is analytical in nature, because this book is basically an analysis of violence. It sees how violence is leaving an impression on colonized people, on the natives, and how they are behaving, and how this violence has restructured their society. So it's a complete analysis of their relations, analysis of their subjectivities. So the approach here is analytical and existential. And the philosophies which are being used in this particular book, or the inspired philosophy, the dominating inspired philosophies are Marxist and Hegelian. Marxist because and Hegelian because we're talking about dialectics over here. Dialectics, be it material dialecticism or of idealism. We are talking about the conflict. We are talking about the different ideas, the conflict between colonized and colonizer, the conflict between their ideologies, the conflict between their races, the conflict between their existence, and the conflict between their interest. Similarly, with decolonization, the conflict between the interests of the colonized, once colonized people, the conflict between national bourgeoisie and the masses, how they are going to act differently now, how they're going to think differently. This is what we are seeing here. Though it's because it's existential, we still see the influence of Sartre's philosophy, existentialist philosophy, but the dominating philosophical approaches which can be seen in this book are Marxist and Hegelian approach, because of this complete dialectics which is being shown in this book, and which is expounded in this book. So this is the book, Wretched of the Earth, which is actually continuation of Black Skin and White Mass, from individual to the communal level. Now we'll move towards the next book, and we'll see what that book talks about.